So everyone is different in their personality. So some people can have that big explosion and it doesn't affect them internally. It actually releases for them and they're good. There are other people that have that explosion and then afterward it explodes back into them and they feel hurt and shame on themselves. So you really have to know yourself first and what you want out of it. Because if someone is bullying you and it is unsafe and you feel like I need to defend myself and stand up to them, then make sure that you understand what it is you want to say and make it safe so that it doesn't become confrontational or even violent. Because most bullies are waiting for you to respond because they need you. They need you. You don't need them. They need you. They're seeking you out.
All right, Raushawna, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Hey, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to chat with you. How's your day going?
It's been good. I'm in the light. You know, there's a lot of darkness, but I am like, darkness is the absence of light. I'm going to be light. And so I've had a good day helping others and helping myself, worked out, the whole thing.
I love it. That's powerful. You know, 'cause we're seeing some dark times right now, Raushawna. I'm like, man, can we catch a break? You know,
it's a pattern, right? Like 2020 kind of rolled in before the end of January. We had Kobe Bryant's like tragic death. I mean, he and the other individuals that were on the helicopter, like that really hit hard. And then we had in the United States, we had tornadoes in the Midwest and just like devastation. Then, of course, across the world, COVID-19, and now in the U.S., the racial injustices and all the things that we've been seeing. So yeah, we're 6 months into the year, and
there's like there's a hurricane brewing. There's murder hornets coming out of places. I was like, man. And then I saw the funniest meme because the other day, I don't know if you saw the space launch. The SpaceX.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
okay.
So they launched 2 astronauts to outer space.
Yes, they did.
The ISS, and I saw this meme that said, "Shout out to the astronauts that left Earth today. Great choice." Like, oh my god.
Like space is probably a little bit safer. It's definitely more peaceful than where we are right now.
Yeah, but you know, it's just so unfortunate to be in these dark times right now. But I understand sometimes dark times are necessary. So how do you find the light when there's, dark times?
So I have to be it. That's what I say. Like, you have to be your own light so that you can step into the darkness, so that you can be light for someone else, even on the hardest days. And for me personally, like even a month ago, I had a friend that was in a double murder suicide because of domestic violence. So her husband murdered her son, and then killed himself.
Wow.
Right. And so even through that grief, it's understanding that it happened. And so because it happened, you got to own it and own the sadness and the hurt of that. And then it's like, well, to be light, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about that? Because she wasn't the first person in my county and in my state that this happened to, who her husband was under police custody and was let out, and then this happened. So what are we going to do? And that's what I believe being light is. It's being, because it's easy to be in darkness and be like, yeah, that happened. That's terrible. Oh,
right.
Shame, sadness. It's like, no, be light. Yeah, it happened. It's sad. It's happening. It's sad. Now, let's do something about it. Let's donate money. Let's get involved. Let's be a part of the conversation. Let's be a part of the solution.
I love it. Powerful.
Yeah.
Now, Raushawna, for the people that aren't familiar with your work and what you're currently up to, would you mind giving us like a brief overview of, your business and what you're focused on?
Yeah. So I am known as the giver of awesomeness. It is my official registered trademark. It is how I brand myself. If you need a brand, you can Google me. It's a part of the book that I wrote, which is Be a Giver of Awesomeness. So you guys that are watching on the video, you can see that. And it's all about this because it's the understanding that I believe that every single person has awesomeness to give to the world around them, and that they get held back from doing that by bullying situations, through adversity that happens, and through conflict in their life. And so they have to be able to rise above that. And in the book, I talk about awesomeness stealing and how there are awesomeness stealers that come for your gift and talent. But rather than thinking about it as like, you're the victim now, or I'm the victim because I've been bullied. No, this is actually my opportunity to show up and be awesome because they picked me for a reason, or they picked you for a reason. If you've got bullies, if you've got awesomeness stealers, they're thinking about you. So that's where you start. Well, if they're thinking about you, then what are they saying? And if they're saying something about you, they're actually trying to tell you who you are. And so I talk about that on every platform in social media. And I'm also a speaker, so I do speak. And then I coach private clients and groups and leaders, because organizations have leadership that need their awesomeness to come out. And sometimes that doesn't happen.
Really amazing stuff you have going on, you know.
Yeah.
I love that you brought up bullying, because, you know, bullying, especially right now in social media age, right? I mean, things are just out of control. I just had a 4-month-old. Well, I have a 4-month-old. And,
yay,
you know,
congrats.
Thank you so much. Like, I know I'm a few years away from the school times, but, I mean, I'm sure that's every parent's fear is, you know, send their kid off to school and, you know, maybe they get bullied. I mean, it's rough. You know, I've been bullied. I mean, that, you know, and I feel like it's a topic like that's not talked enough about. Like, at least I'm in my circle, you know?
Yeah.
So,
well, we think about bullying as you talked about, right? Like, you've got a child, she's 4 months, so ooey gooey. I have kids. My son is 12, so he's in middle school. He's going to 7th grade. And my daughter is 9, and she's going to 4th grade. And so my husband and I, we've talked a lot about their environment, but we also see bullying as adults. Like, we see it on social media. You see it in a boardroom. There's lots of conversations around, you know, having a seat at the table and having your voice be heard. And the truth is that the reason people don't speak up at any table, the dinner table, the conference table, is because they feel like their voice doesn't matter. And a lot of times it's because they've been bullied, or their awesomeness, as I like to talk about it, has been stolen in some way. They've encountered, like, one of the characters, I talk about the deceiver. So a deceiver is someone who intentionally holds back information as a way to control you. So, like, Ross, have you ever been on a project with someone where you thought, like, man, this is great, but there was a little bit of you thinking, like, I don't know if they're telling me the whole truth.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then later, the deceiver. You're like, yeah. And they're intentionally holding back information because they're controlling you. They need a part of you. They need you to be involved. But there's little bit that they're not telling you. It's like almost the whole truth, but not everything. And that's the part of bullying that we don't talk about, because it erodes your confidence. Like, you're like, I think there's something off, but I can't quite put my finger on it. And because you can't put your finger on it, rather than showing up fully, you end up kind of like not showing up all the way. And anytime you're being bullied or your awesomeness is being stolen, you'll know it because a part of you is playing small.
Now, Raushawna, what was your, like, how did you get into this field, right? Like, why bullying? Excuse me, why bullying? Why conflict? You know, why coaching? Like, what did that all look like for you?
So, yeah, my journey to entrepreneurship has been an interesting one. So I have an engineering degree, 2 of them actually, by trade. My dad was a school teacher, so I grew up thinking I was going to be a school teacher. And one day he was like, you don't want to be a teacher. So shout out to all my teachers out there. He was like, they don't make any money. Like, you want to be an engineer. And I remember asking him, like, well, what's an engineer? He was like, I don't really know, but they make more money than teachers. And so,
fair play. Fair play.
Yeah. Right. And so my parents did, though, they allowed me to go to a different summer camps when I was in high school so that I could learn about engineering. And then I did. I went to North Carolina A&T undergrad, and then I went to Purdue for grad school, learned about human factors and ergonomics, which for a lot of people are like, what is that? And it's a part of industrial engineering. You actually manufacture equipment seats, like the chair you're sitting in, and all the equipment around the people. It's the interface between the people and the machines. And I loved it. And I led teams, and I realized a lot of people would come into my office or find me and want to talk to me and like help me solve, like, Raushawna, I need to talk to you. Can you have this problem? And I did that. I did that for 8 years, worked in manufacturing, loved it, like the hard hat, the hairnet, the safety glasses, all of it. I loved it. And then I transitioned into human resources, into a public school system. So the 15th largest public school system in the United States. And some would say I had the big girl job because I had the fancy title, the 6 figures, the big team, the whole thing. And then I started getting bullied at work myself. And so because I was being bullied at work, and because I was a leader who other people looked up to, I knew that once my blood pressure was like 150/87, I needed to do something else because the job was literally killing me, and it wasn't because it was hard. And so I ended up taking all my gifts and talents, all my certifications, all my education, and stepped out on faith and started my coaching business almost 3 years ago.
Really? Wow. So
yeah.
3 years ago, you stepped away from this 6-figure job because you realized that it was taking a toll on your health, physically and mentally.
Physically and mentally. Yeah. The day, so there were 2 things that happened. The first, I was sitting at my dinner table with my family, and to this day, I have no idea what my husband and my 2 children were laughing at. I was sitting there physically, but mentally in my head, I was running through the day, and I was trying to figure out how tomorrow could be different. How if my bully boss, I like to call her the minimizer because that's one of the characters. Minimizers get joy out of making you feel small. And my boss was that to a T and would seek me out for it because I had a gift that I didn't realize I had. I was just doing my job and doing it well, but that was very threatening. And so what I realized in the moment at the kitchen table was this job is stealing my moments with my family. And my son at the time was, so he's 12, so he was almost 9 or so. And he turned to me and said, "Mama, that job is stealing your joy." And I was like, oh, all the moms and dads out there, you're like, your daughter's not talking.
You feel that one yet. You feel that one. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And so, so that was the first thing. And then the second thing that happened, so that was like I might have to do something different moment. And then the second thing that happened, aside from all of the things that were happening internally to me, there was a day that I could see the joy that my boss was getting out of making me feel small. And it happened in the open cubicle area, to the point that after my boss left, 2 of my colleagues came into my office and apologized on my boss's behalf. And wow. I was like, I don't want to be a part of that picture of leadership and the shame and the embarrassment of it. So I remember standing in the doorway going, okay, God, all right, I'm done. I can't do this. And I've never seen that boss again. Like even the day I went in to resign and take my computer and everything, they weren't there.
So you decided to resign from this position, and have you, like at this time, did you already step into Raushawna the coach with the plan of starting the business and, you know, teaching people, or you were, so you were just, for the audio listeners, you're giving me some body language that's like, no, I didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't recommend like the way I started my business unless you feel like, if you're a faith person. I felt like God was saying, trust me. I know that's what he was saying. He was saying, trust me. And so what I did, because I was sick, so literally this is what happened. A week before the crazy cubicle encounter, I felt prompted to know how many days of leave I had. I had 53 days of leave. So then after that crazy cubicle encounter, and because my doctor was saying, you know, monitor your blood pressure because it's up there and this is a problem, I ended up going to the doctor because, again, I was like,
right,
this is crazy. This is happening. And when I went to the doctor was like, you're being bullied and you should report this. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, I'm in the HR department. Like, this is it. So
you are the person that people go to.
Right. Like this. Yeah. Right. And so my doctor was like, well, I'll write you out. How many days do you have? And I was like, wait, I actually know this. I have 53 days. So I always tell people to follow the signs that are happening in your life because they're leading you to where you're supposed to be going. And because I was out for 53 days after the next Monday, so that was on a Wednesday, I ended up going out of town to a conference. And then that Monday when I got back, I started working on my business because I knew that I was what some would call, and I'm using air quotes for those who can't see, Yoda. Like, that's what people would say. People would be like, Raushawna, can I come to your office? Can you do that Yoda Jedi mind trick thing where I ask you questions and I tell you things and then you kind of like ask me more questions when I feel better? And I was like, yeah, it's called coaching. And so I knew that I had a thing that I could monetize. And so that's how I started. I was like, well, I'm going to take my awesomeness, my gifts, my talents, and I'm going to start coaching people and finding clients. And that's what I did. And I've built along the way, built clients, got into a consulting opportunity, worked alongside a fabulous woman for a season, and have continued to build since.
I love it. It's a great story. You know, sometimes, you know, everyone has the F this moment, right? You have to, like, it just happens sometimes. Where you're just I'm done with this, right? I'm done. I mean, and like, for my fear of staying got bigger than my fear of leaving. Like, I was like, like, I would drive the parking lot to try to figure out if my boss was going to be there. I mean, I spent a lot of energy and time. And for those that are bullied, and you see it on TV and they kind of make it funny where it's kind of like people are like walking the long way to the meeting or whatever, but that happens. People sit in their cars on a daily basis and kind of walk themselves through, okay, I got to get geared up to go in here today and face so-and-so. And most people are like, this is just what adulting looks like. Like, this is what it means to work here. This is what it means to be able to be successful. That's not the truth. That's not at all the truth. Wow. Yeah, you know, I'm super excited that we're chatting about this right now because you're absolutely right. Like, this stuff happens. It happens. Like, so I enjoy playing video games, right? I love to play video games. And you know, on the video games, there's you know, chats. You know, like you can talk to people.
My husband's a big gamer. Okay. So we can talk.
There you go.
I'm good.
So, you know, I play with these people, and, you know, occasionally there's like one or two people that get on the chat, and the second they get on, like, I want to get off. I'm just saying this on the record. I don't even know if this person's listening to this, but they have to be the most toxic bully. Like, I'm sure you know because you're the expert, but the person just like spews this negativity. It's just nonsense. Yeah. They just start like, you know, talking crap, and like, it's not even like healthy, like, you know, guys poke fun at each other, women poke fun. It's like out of like a bad place in their soul where they feel like putting you down to make themselves feel better. And I'm just like, you know what? You just ruined my time. So I'm out of here. So
they're a total minimizer, and they're picking you or like they may even get on because they see you're on, especially if they're directing their comments at you because they get something out of you. Like, that's the whole point. Like, usually we talk about bullies and bullying and we talk about the other person. When we're talking about awesomeness and awesomeness stealers, it's because you have something. There are people that are seeking you out so that they can do and say things to you. Like, oh, Ross, you know, you got that podcast, like you know, you bring people on, so you must think you're all that. Well, I'm about to beat your A, you know, on this game and show you who you, right? The only reason they can talk about your podcast and the fact that you're interviewing people is because you have something to talk about. And that's what you go and do more of. That's how you become a giver of awesomeness, by taking the things that they're saying and doing to you.
You're good, Raushawna. You're good. You know, you're throwing around some words here. I wanna go over them. Okay. So you mentioned the word minimizer, Right? And then you said the deceiver.
Yes.
Then there was another one. I forgot. You mentioned. Anyways, let's talk about that, right?
The awesomeness stealer?
Yeah. Oh, the awesome. Yeah. So let's talk about these words. So the deceiver is somebody who
intentionally holds back information as a way to control you.
Okay. And the minimizer
gets joy out of making you feel small.
Yes. Okay. Are there any others that we need to know?
Yes, there are 5.
Okay.
Yes. So there's the hoarder is another one. And so the hoarder wants to keep you close. They don't want anyone else to have you. So these are people that intentionally try to keep your thing from getting bigger, right? Like they're like, man, you got this great podcast you're doing, but you don't want it to get too big. Or if you come and work with me on mine, they want to keep you close. Yeah. Okay. And then there's the penalizer. I see this one a lot in families because penalizers hold back access and emotion as a way to punish you. And so they do this by giving you the cold shoulder or not talking to you.
You calling me out? You calling me out? I'm laughing because you speak to my soul right now. All right, go ahead. Go. Go ahead.
And I specifically talk about this in families or close relationships because these are people that know you well. So they do know your awesomeness. And they may even seek you out and ask you questions like, hey, Ross, tell me what you think about this. And then you tell them, and then they're upset. And so then they stop talking to you or they're mad. That's what happens. They hold back access and emotion, either physical emotion or actual touch, feel, accolades, etc., because they are now punishing you for being who they know you are.
Okay, good. That's not me. Whew.
Okay, that's not you.
No. When you said cold shoulder,
okay,
I'm guilty of that, of the cold shoulder, but not in that context though.
What's the other context? Look, let me not do coaching, but maybe.
The cold shoulder would be when Nicole and I fight, my partner, we go on like break. So like we're in the same house, but like if I'm mad at her, like we just don't speak. And she gets like the cold shoulder, and that's like my way of like, she calls it like punishing her. Like I'm punishing her because I'm not talking to her.
Yeah. That is the beginning of the penalizer. Oh. So
I'm a penalizer.
because especially if the initial clash of like the argument or whatever it is something that you both have voice to, if you're the one that shuts it down without a timeout, right? Like it's different when it's like, all right, we need to take a timeout and it's agreed upon. It's another when you're like, I'm done. Yeah.
Okay, well.
So I would offer you that if you need the space, to ask for the space and then to give her an opportunity to say yes. And then you all come back together so that you can both learn to fight fair.
I like it. I think for me, Raushawna, is that when there's static or like confrontation and I'm like upset or it throws off my vibe, I feel like it's difficult to just snap back right into normal mode. Like for me, there has to be like adequate time to pass before I can like just get back to like normal, you know? When it comes to Nicole and I. So I think that's why like I do that weird thing. I don't like doing it, honestly. I just do it like subconsciously.
So then it may be you may be actually emotionally hijacked, where it's now become a reflex, an emotional reflex. You don't even know you're doing it because the subconscious mind is working on your behalf. And so when whatever the trigger is that's happened, you may actually not be Ross as, how old are you?
20. I'm turning 30 in a month.
Ooh, the dirty 30. Okay. Yeah. So almost, right. So you won't be Ross at almost 30, 29. You're showing up as Ross at 5 or 6.
All right, we got to get the heat off of me. We're taking the heat off of me.
All right.
Okay.
Anyway,
what?
Just give me things to think about.
You're talking too specific. Did somebody hire you to be on this show to do this to me?
No. But it's a great example for your listeners.
It is.
And being vulnerable in it, because there could be somebody else who's like, I do that too.
Yeah.
I do that too. So let's go to the last
Yeah.
awesomeness stealer. Let's go to that. So the last awesomeness stealer is one of my favorites. It's called the taker. And so takers infringe on your moment of joy and make you feel bad about something good. This is the moment you get the trophy, you get the award, you get recognized, and you go to the person who you think is safe, who's going to celebrate with you. And then the next thing you know, they're making you feel bad. They're going, you always get celebrated. Nothing ever happens to me. My life is terrible. And then before you know it, you're like down their drama cycle. And the thing that you were happy about now is pushed aside. And they've infringed or taken over your moment of joy.
You're good. I know I said it like 10 times, but you're spot on. You know, I know I said I want to take the heat off me, but I'm just so intrigued by this conversation. When I started making some serious money, my backstory, I used to bartend and serve tables. I got into real estate, and I started with two peers that I met, and we were doing our separate things, but we were doing it together at the same time. Long story short, I started pulling ahead and making, good money at the time, and one of my really close friends wasn't. And that actually turned into him not wanting to be my friend anymore because, and I quote, he felt like he was in my coattails, like he was behind me. And it's like, I'm not a condescending person. I don't think I'm better than anybody, and I don't care if you're rich or poor. Like, if you're cool, you're cool. I like you. And that's how I treated him, with respect. But, it hurt me because, just because I'm winning and succeeding, like, I'm not putting you down, or like, I don't want you to look at me differently or anything like that. And it's like, that's a tough one, right? As entrepreneurs, if one person pulls ahead and then, like, the group or the acquaintances, the friends, like, start hating on you or something because you're, that's a tough one,
Yeah, it happens. And it's the truth for your friend is that he was projecting onto you what he didn't yet perceive in himself, because there were enough wins to go around. I've flipped houses as well and done some private money lending for investing and all of that, have property. And it is a game. It's a great game. And if anybody wants to get into it, play Monopoly first and win, because that's what it's all about. It's all about controlling your assets.
Right.
And in the moment with your friend, every time your friend was like, you got what I don't, right? Basically, like, I'm in your coattails. That was him saying to you, I don't feel confident where I am, which is why he wasn't making the money and doing what it takes to make the money in real estate investing.
But why do we have to suffer?
We don't. The truth is that when people tell you that you're winning, you have to keep winning. All he was doing was helping you understand that you've got it. You've got it. And there are some people that are your friends for seasons. They're really not supposed to be your friends for the long haul. And I would bet you that if you really think about your friendship and how it got started, there was always a little bit of competition in him towards you that you didn't even understand. That even now, as I'm bringing it up, you might have some pictures of some times when it was little. It could have been little, like maybe it was when you guys were playing video games and he just got a little bit more mad when you beat it. And you were just like, it's just a game, guy. Like, let's go get something to eat.
Right. Yeah, man. Wow. Now that we're having this conversation, I'm thinking about a lot of people around me that have one of these 5 stealers of awesomeness.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have to share this with you because I just have to. But I have a really good friend. I don't even think my friends listen to my podcast, so I'll call them out. But hopefully they do listen to it. But I have a really good friend, and whenever I say something, he always responds with something negative. It's like the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing. And I know that he does it. For example, I'll say, "Hey man, I'm going skiing today." "Oh man, it's a really crappy day to go skiing." Yep. "Oh, thank you." "Hey man, I'm going to a concert." "Oh, I wouldn't be going to a concert right now." It's like whenever I say something good that I want to share with him, he responds with the negative. And I never do that to him. Like, he'll tell me, "Oh, I'm going to the beach today." I'll be like, "Oh man, that's awesome. Have a great time." But if I say, "Hey man, I'm going to the beach today," he'll be like, "Oh man, it's supposed to rain later. Like today, why would you go to the beach today?" So what is that?
So, I mean, he is being a minimizer, but he's also letting you know that he wants what you have. And rather than being focused on the fact that he wants it, own the fact that you have it. Own the fact that you have it. So often it's like, well, he wants what I have, so then we put the focus on him. The focus is on you, the fact that you have it. Great, you're going to the beach today. Next time, don't tell him. Like, what knowing that you have awesomeness stealers in your life, especially people that are like friends and family, some of which you won't ever be able to exit from. It's understanding that that's who they are. That's who they are. And so when you understand that, you can meet them where you want to be, not where they are. Some people, you have to meet them where they are because you're helping them on their journey. Other people, it's like, oh, that's just who you are. So now I know. And so on the days when you're like, I'm really excited about this, don't call that friend. They're not the friend to hold that. Sometimes I say it this way. It's understanding that some of your friends are bowls. They have deep capacity to hold what you have. And there are other friends that are saucers. They don't. And so when you know that you have something big that needs to be held, give it to a friend that's a bowl, that has capacity. Otherwise, just keep it with your saucer friend if it's easy and light, right? Like, it's the difference between salad and cereal. You do not put those things in the same thing. So don't put your stuff in the same thing, in the same people. It just doesn't work.
Right. Now, would you recommend to anybody, the listeners right now that are relating to this and now it's like hitting them, they're having these aha moments, like, wow, this sounds familiar. Like, would you recommend to confront one of these 5 people, right? Like the taker, the deceiver. Are you supposed to confront this, or like what's the action plan here when you're dealing with these types of challenges?
It depends. What I tell everyone to do first is to make a list of the people that are coming up. Like, if you're watching this, if you're driving, then listen to it again so that you can take some time. And the people that are flashing before your eyes right now, make a list of who they are and try to figure out and classify them. Because when you can classify them, you can then decide, are these people worth confronting or not? Some people are not worth confronting. It's just an understanding. And I usually say this, I noticed. And then once I notice, all right, I noticed. Now I know. Other people, it's like, I might actually have a conversation because I keep showing up small and I don't want to do that anymore. I can't do that. And once you own, like, man, my best friend or the guy that I talk to the most about the things that are happening in my life, and every time he's negative. And so then I talk to him about my excitement and I'm up here, and then I come down here. So then I have to work hard to come back up here. You can stop doing that. So you're not wasting energy. You want to put your energy into something that's going to move you forward. And so start with a list, classify the people, and then decide who are the people that you actually need to have a conversation with because it's hindering your growth. Everyone else, either just know this is where they are and you can decide if you're going to meet them there or not.
Now, what would you say for, like, have you ever seen the movie Anger Management with Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
And
Jack? Yeah, it's been a while. Yep. Okay. Yep.
Do you remember how he was dealing with all of these emotions and the boss, and he was on the verge of exploding, right, and just losing it. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are like that, right? Like, they're just a ticking time bomb. Like, for you, it was your blood pressure, it was a health thing, but some people, and especially like the narrative, like when it comes to bullying, like sometimes, especially like with kids and stuff, it's like, well, stand up to your bully, punch them in the nose, and they won't bully you anymore. Like, what are your thoughts on that, right? Like, exploding and, like, just go, like, losing it, and sometimes even maybe having to get violent to get the bullying to stop.
Bully to stop. So everyone is different in their personality. So some people can have that big explosion and it doesn't affect them internally. It actually releases for them and they're good. There are other people that have that explosion and then afterward, it explodes back into them and they feel hurt and shame on themselves. So you really have to know yourself first and what you want out of it. Because if someone is bullying you and it is unsafe and you feel like I need to defend myself and stand up to them, then make sure that you understand what it is you want to say and make it safe so that it doesn't become confrontational or even violent. Because most bullies are waiting for you to respond because they need you. They need you. You don't need them. They need you. They're seeking you out. Every bully show from the Christmas Story on talks like the bully keeps coming and they're coming for you because you have the gift. You have the awesomeness. My preference is that you decide what it is that you have and pivot that into something else. So even if it's on the bus, like if there are people watching that whose kids are getting bullied, okay, it's on the bus, your child is getting bullied, talk to the adult so that they can get their seat changed. And then when they're on the bus, if they're a creative person or a creative child, give them a chance to write or color or art, graph or game or do whatever it is to channel their energy. Because all it is energy management. When it comes to businesses or being with someone where you're working with them or something like that, like you have talents, you have gifts, and there's a lot of work to go around. So if someone is bullying you on a project, shift your talent, take your awesomeness and start working on a different project. Do what you can because your skills are transferable. You're the one that has the gift. You can move on, even if it comes to that, like leave your job if you have to, if it's something that you can do, or if you're thinking about it and you've been thinking about it, put action behind it because your awesomeness expands to the capacity that it's in. And so if you're in an organization that stifles you, your awesomeness will stay small. However, if you open it up to the world, before you know it, you can be on international podcasts and be an international speaker and an author and a coach and all these other things.
Incredible stuff. Powerful. You know, I do these events from time to time, and you know, there's this man, right? The anonymous man. Every single event, this man would come up to me and he would make a comment, a slick comment. It just blew my mind because I'm the most, you know, in my mind, respectful person. Like, I want to make people feel good. But you know, you and I both know, there's people out there that have no problem just saying slick stuff.
Anything, yeah.
And they have no filter, and they feel they don't feel bad about whatever, even if it's hurtful. It's right. You know, it's mind blowing to me. Every single time I saw this man, he would say the same thing to me. And I let it go, I let it go, I let it go. And then one day, I lost it. I literally, my blood through the roof. And I confronted him. And I told him not to, I didn't get violent or physical, but I said, don't talk to me like that. And it made me feel, and this is weird to say, but the physical response of confronting him made me feel worse than just swallowing what he would say to me, because I felt so, once I confronted it, I got angry and I wanted to like lose my cool. What is that about?
So there's a couple things. First, what did he say to you? Like actually say. What's the word?
I don't want to say.
It's that. Okay.
I don't want to say because I don't know who's listening to the show.
Okay, got it. Okay, all right. So the first thing I want you to know is that what people say to you matters. Every single piece of what they say matters. Okay. Because they're trying to tell you who you are and what you have, the power that you have. Even if they say it in the not version, or like in the you think you're so version, The only reason they can even form the thought, because the way the brain works, like the only reason they can form the thought to think of you to then say the not version is because on the other side of the not is the is version. And so the wording and like all of the wording matters, because when you can break down the wording of what people say, the negative part of that is what they're coming to you with. But on the other side is that is a positive, and that's where your awesomeness is. You may not even know you're winning at the game that you're competing with someone because you're just showing up like that, right? Like the song says, I just woke up like this. Sometimes you just wake up in your awesomeness and you're going through the day just being all you, cool, whatever, and somebody is telling you what you're not. It's only because you are. So that's number one. The second thing is that emotion that exploded back onto you is how the body responds when it really doesn't want to be that. It is what people say, they took me out of character. That's what that looks like. It's the understanding that your normal rhythm of how you show up is cool, calm, collected, chill. And then because you had to vibrate up at that high level, and then you set it, and then once you set it, it really doesn't relieve anything, because your natural tendency is like, I just didn't even want to go there in the first place. I didn't want to.
Right, exactly.
And the work to have to work up to that is what happens afterwards. It's what I call the backflow of emotion, because you had to work up there and then you did it. All of the other stuff that you had to go through to get up to that level stays with you. It doesn't transfer to them. That's why I said you have to know who you are, because sometimes it's better to just be like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Like I had someone one time say to me after I spoke in a meeting, they came up and said, you know, I'm so glad that you don't speak like a Raushawna. And I was like, yeah, like you guys can't see my face, but I was very confused. And I kind of knew they were trying to give me a compliment, because some would say Raushawna is like a ghetto name, and so therefore, right? And this person looked like me, so she was a Black female, so it's not even racial. And I just was like, thank you. Like I pointed at her, I was like, I think I know what you're trying to say, and I'm just going to say thank you. I could have gotten angry, but that's not who I am, right? Or like the time my boss was like, in a meeting, look at me when I'm talking to you. I was like, Ashton Kutcher, are you coming? Am I getting punked? Is this really happening?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. But those words, look at me when I'm talking to you, was the beginning of me understanding that my presence mattered. Because the only reason someone needs you to look at them is because you're giving them something when you do. And so if you need me to look at you, then who else does? And let me go find those people, because they're probably kinder than you are.
I'm curious, because like the first example of the woman, she said, I'm so happy, or what she said?
Yeah. I'm so glad you don't sound like a Raushawna.
I would have been like, screw you. What the hell are you talking? Like don't those people need to feel the like that you don't say shit like that? Like, isn't that like you just saying thank you? I mean, like you took the high road, right? But should the people that make dumb comments and remarks like that know or be told that they said something dumb?
So in the moment, no. Because especially if you're not equipped to help that person, really. Or if you're like, that's dumb, because people don't, you can tell someone they're dumb. You can tell someone they're fabulous. Either way, if they don't believe it, it doesn't matter. Their brain's not going to compute it. So it's really just wasted. I knew in the moment, and based on the context of other people that were around, that was all that was needed to be said. And later, because we were in a group and we were colleagues, there were other people who heard her that had that conversation with her. So I didn't have to.
Okay. All right.
So I didn't have to. And so understanding the context matters. And the reason I always share this story is because when people say things to you, if you aren't equipped in your mind to stop the story, the replay, all you would do is replay what they say. When for me, I was like, thank you. And now I use it as a teaching point. I use it as like an understanding, like, like, yeah, like she said what she said because she has bias around what that name means or what names like that look like. It's also a reminder to me that at the end of the day, I was the one at the front of the room speaking, sharing my awesomeness. So that's what I go with. And that's what I focus on.
I love it. You know, I want to switch gears here a little bit, Raushawna, because I feel like I just got a personal coaching session. So I'm so grateful and thank you so much for that. And for the listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed that little segment. But I want to switch gears here and talk about, you know, your business and your day-to-day. So obviously right now we're dealing with COVID and we're dealing with, you know, a whole bunch of issues right now. We talked about off air, right? We got, what was the list? We got murder hornets. We got racial injustice. We have, you know, cops killing innocent people. We got coronavirus. We got hurricanes, tornadoes. I mean, all this crazy stuff going on right now in the world. But on a day-to-day, like, what is the average day like for you as an entrepreneur? Like, how do you fill up your calendar?
Yeah, so my calendar, I do what's called calendar blocking because I'm a wife and a mom and kids are around and all of that. So my day starts early with a workout. I work out, it's a part of my regimen. Either I'm going for a walk or I'm working out in a group. And then by 8 o'clock, I'm either going live on my social media channels because I do go live and teach and share content. And then by 9 o'clock, I have my first clients that I coach. And so I coach them in private sessions on Zoom, like we are now. And that'll happen until about noon. And then I shut my day down usually at noon on Monday, Tuesdays, Fridays. And then on Wednesdays and Thursdays, I have longer days where I coach clients more, or I'm writing content. So I'm writing articles. I'm a part of 2 different magazines that I'm published in, and I'm a contributor. So I write articles, and I'm working on my second book, Be a Giver of Awesomeness, the Teen Guide, so that teens can start to understand the awesomeness stealers, and so that they don't have to go into their adult life walking on eggshells around people.
Sounds like a good calendar to me. You know, entrepreneurs, we struggle sometimes, I feel, with filling up our day, right? Especially like when you're your own boss and you've already stepped into that mindset full time, right? Because 24 hours in a day, even if you sleep 8 hours a day, right, you still have a substantial time, 16 hours left over. So for the person out there right now that's like struggling, getting the most out of their day, what advice would you have for them?
Crunch your day, actually. Even though you have 16 hours, figure out how much of that time you're actually going to work on your business and work in your business. And those are 2 different things. And then crunch your time. Because if you give yourself a week to build out your social media calendar for the next month, it's going to take you all week. And if you say, I'm going to do this in 2 hours, you will do it in 2 hours because you're going to fill the time. And so getting yourself to shift. And so there are days, and I told you kind of my schedule. And so when I'm writing in the afternoon on Thursday, or sometimes it's Thursday morning, depending on client. But when I'm in a writing block and that's on my calendar, I'm writing. And that's what I'm doing. And even like my kids and my husband know, oh, she's writing. She's got on her pants and her hair's crazy, so she's writing, right? Like versus a day when I'm going to be on and I'm doing an interview or I'm on social media and I'm recording or things like that. Being disciplined in your calendar helps you learn how to treat you, and it helps the people around you learn how to treat you and your business so that your business doesn't consume you. Because a lot of entrepreneurs struggle, especially if they've left a job. They just transfer their 40-hour work week into their business, and it doesn't have to be that, especially if you are really trying to prioritize your life.
Do you ever feel or find yourself losing focus when you're like when you're putting on the writer's hat and you're like, okay, I'm gonna write for the next 2 hours? Do you ever lose focus at all, or you don't struggle with that?
Oh yeah, I definitely do. But I do some kind of weird things. So I'll give you a couple of things that I do. So sometimes I write standing up. I don't always sit. the same with my coaching clients. Like, I'm not always sitting in the same spot. I have about 3 different places in my house where I will do different things. So I kind of rotate through them so that my scenery changes. So sometimes I'm out back and I'm sitting out back. Sometimes I'm in the office in this seat that I'm in, kind of at my desk. Sometimes I'm actually over on the couch behind me and I'm working over there. And it just really depends, because I have to be able to shift. And I work in, while I say I'm going to write for 2 hours, it's about 45 minutes, and then it's a bathroom break and coffee or water, right? Like, so, and I have to break it up that way for me. Some people can go for long periods of time. I'm not that person. So I chunk in 45 minutes.
By the way, you have a nice library back there for the video.
There's a lot. Yeah, and there's like lights, and then I have a whiteboard because I teach on. Yeah.
So
I believe in giving.
For the audio listeners, so Raushawna has a huge bookshelf in the back. I see maybe like 60, 70 books already. So I guess you're a big reader.
Yeah. I enjoy books. I was laughing in my head. My husband, he used to call me a book whore. Like, you're a book whore. Like, stop getting all the books.
Yeah.
So I try to do more digital books now, but I still love the paper. I love the way it feels.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm a visual learner myself, so I personally can't do the audiobooks. I wish I could, but I have to see it. And I think actually feeling like the physical book just does something. I don't know. It just not looking at the screen. Yeah,
it's kinesthetic. So if I'm listening to an audiobook, you better believe I'm listening to it more than once. Like, I've listened to Great by Choice by Jim Collins. If you haven't read it or listened to it, you should.
Let me write that down. What is it? Great by Choice?
Great by Choice by Jim Collins. And I recommend that book because it helps. There's a concept in the book called the 20-mile march. And it is the one thing that you do every day that allows you over time to see the increments. And that's one of the ways that I think I've had the longevity that I've had, and I still have a ton of energy and passion, is because I don't go so hard that I burn myself out. It is this constant little bit here, a little bit there, 20-mile march. And so he talks about that. And then he also talks about a concept of firing bullets and then cannonballs. So you fire these bullets around, like, if you've got a concept. So a lot of people out there might be listening because they have a product they want to launch. So you fire bullets, fire small little prototypes, do focus groups, see which lands, and then you put your money into the big cannonball and launch.
I love it. I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Raushawna, what would you say as an entrepreneur, day to day, coaching people, helping people, with bullying, conflict, and everything that you're doing? Like, what would you say is your biggest challenge?
Oof. I think the biggest challenge that I still overcome is when I see that people have so much awesomeness to give and they won't make the investment to do it. That they I'm like, you don't understand. Like, when you believe in you, everything else around you changes. And if you don't, or they're like, yeah, but I'm going to start first. I'm going to get my business going first. And I'm like, okay. However, if the way you talk about yourself is based on the fact that you don't know if you're going to make millions and what happens if not, and if that's how you're going to start your business is from a scarcity mindset, it's not going to be successful, because at the end of the day, your brain is going to work to make you right. That's all it ever does every day. It wakes up and goes, what do you want today? And you can be like, this is going to be an awesome day. It's going to be great. I'm going to close deals. I'm about to make some money and change some people's lives. And when I make money, I get to do more of that. And if that's great, and if you've got that narrative, you're going to see fruit in your business. If you have a narrative that's like, well, I'm going to try to make it today. I'm going to try to launch my business. I'm going to try to get some sales. The only thing the brain says is, yeah, we're not doing that today. And that's when distraction comes in. And that's what I have to overcome, is like letting people be where they are, even though I'm like, oh, come on. Yeah.
I understand. Now that's from like, obviously like helping other people and getting people like the challenges is to like get people to believe in themselves. But what is something that Raushawna struggles with?
Me?
Yeah.
So for me personally, I struggle with continuing to put my voice out there because I do struggle with my voice matters. And when I talk about it, I'm super passionate about it. Finding ways to do that and believing that when I tell the story, it makes sense is a constant. Like I continue to say like, yes, I'm going to do it, but I have to get to that. And then when I do it, I'm like, that was great. But there is this narrative and I work on it on a daily basis.
Understood. Awesome. Well, Raushawna, I want to thank you so much. Honestly, I'm going to be hitting you up. And I know a lot of listeners going to be want to hit you up too and check out some of your programs and you know what you have going on. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like what do you offer as a consultant?
Yes. So I offer individual coaching for one-on-one for people that need private. They've got a lot of limiting beliefs. They have a lot of bullying conflict in their life and they are ready to like, this is me. I have big things I'm called to do and I've been waiting for this chance, this opportunity, and I don't know what holds me back. I work with individual private clients. And then for people that are out there that are like, holy cow, my organization struggles with this. Like we've got issues. I work with organizations as well. And so that is what I do is help because every organization has people in it. And if you don't work on the people, the organization is only as good as the one that is holding everyone down. That's how mediocrity breeds.
Now, do you work with the person that is doing the reverse?
The bullying.
Yeah.
I work with the bullier and the bully, if you want to say it that way. Yes. So if there are definitely people out there that like, I'm the mean one. Like, I hate to admit it, but it's me. And that's okay. The first step is understanding. And then we go back and figure out why. Because you weren't born that way, but somewhere along the way, being mean got you something. It got you promoted in some cases. It got you the recognition. It got you the validation. And you don't have to live your life seeking that. You can actually live your life in a place where you are whole and full, just as you are.
Absolutely. Now, what's the best place for the listeners to reach out to you? How do they, connect with you, give you some feedback for being on the show, and check out your programs?
Yeah. So for all my Facebook listeners, go to giverofawesomeness.org, and that is going to take you into the private community of the Giver of Awesomeness Nation. That is where I do teaching and training every Wednesday and connect with people on a very personal level. So giverofawesomeness.org takes you right there. And for people that want to work with me, you can go right to RaushawnaPrice.com and it says, take the first step. So enter your information, take the first step. You're going to get a free gift from me, and then we're going to talk.
I love it. And we'll link that in the show notes. Now, Raushawna, I ask every guest on the show the same question. I'd like to extend that to you if that's okay.
Yes.
Awesome. In your entire life so far, what has been the absolute best advice that you've ever received?
Oh, best advice. Here it is. On the days when you are feeling like things are terrible, like you did the worst job, just know that you didn't. And on the days when things are awesome and amazing and you rocked and you were outstanding, just know that it was good. And so live your life somewhere in between so that your highs are high, but you don't take them for granted, and your lows are not so low that you can't continue to move forward. Best advice I got from a vice president.
And boom, just like that. I want to thank you so much again, Raushawna. You were an absolute pleasure to chat with. And I look forward to staying connected. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Take care.